and today we are going to have our social studies lesson for grade 8 learners CBC. Welcome and enjoy with us. You can follow us live on KUTV, still on YouTube. You can still follow us at KUTV and also Facebook. You can still follow our lesson and also be part of us by sending any question that you will have as we move on to the number that is on the screen. So make sure you follow us all the way as we begin today's lesson. So we are going to handle social studies, the first strand in grade 8, that is people and population. So social studies for grade 8, and in today's lesson we are going to look at the first strand, people and population. People and population, and under this strand we are going to handle a substrand, that is the origin of man. So under this strand we are going to handle the origin of man. In other words, we'll be asking ourselves, where did man originate from? Where did man originate from, or where did we come from? So follow us live on KUTV, and if you have any question, you will be able to text us or WhatsApp us on the number that is on your screen. Now, the origin of man. All of us believe that there is a place that you came from. If we use the scientific theory, if you use the mythical theory, we will be looking at how do you believe your first person came from, your first ancestors, where did they originate from? And also we'll be looking at what are the stages of human development. So the scientific theory about human origin is what we'll be handling in today's lesson. And before that, we need to ask ourselves, what are some of the things do we believe in as a community that the first person came from? And we'll be looking at several communities, how they believe their first person came from. Now, there are three theories that explain the origin of human beings. There are three theories that explain about the origin of human beings. The first theory is called the creation theory. The creation theory. The second theory is called the mythical theory. The mythical theory. And the third one is called the evolution theory. So these are theories that explain about the origin of man. Now, students, what is a theory? Your question is, what is a theory? Before we start asking ourselves about these theories, what is a theory? You can use the number that is on your screen to text us your answer, and we'll be able to look at it. What is a theory? Good. And so I've already said that there are three theories that explain about the origin of man. And the first theory is the creation theory. The second theory is the mythical theory. And the third theory is the evolution theory. We will start with the first theory, the creation theory. The creation theory. The creation theory, this is a theory based on religion. It is a theory based on religion. Each religion believe that their first person came from somewhere. They believe that the first ancestor came from somewhere. So creation theory, it deals with religion. Which religions do we have in our community? The first one is Christianity. We have Christianity. The second theory, we have the Islam, the Islamic religion, and we also have the Hindu religion. So these are some of the religions that we have in our community. Now, Christians have their own way in which they believe about the origin of man. Islams have got their own way they believe about the origin of man. And also Hindus, they have their own way that they believe their first person came from. As we start with Christians, Christians believe that we were created by God. We believe in a supernatural being who is God. And in Christianity, we believe that the first person to be created was Adam and Eve. So as Christians, we believe that we all originated from Adam and Eve, or rather, our ancestors, we are the Adam and Eve are our ancestors. So Christians believe that we originated from God. God created us through Adam and Eve by creating the first human beings, Adam and Eve. So we believe that all of us, all Christians alone, they believe that they originated from Adam and Eve. Still on Christianity, Christians also believe that God created everything in 7 days. Christians believe that God created everything in 7 days. Now, our TY quiz using the number that you can see on your screen. What was created on the first day, second day to the 6th day? Use the number that is on the screen to chat with us, to send an SMS. Which are some of the things that was created on the first day up to the 6th day, then God created on the 7th day. So that's about Christians believing that our first ancestors, or we were created by God through the first ancestors, Adam and Eve. When we come to Islamic, they have also their own way in which they believe about the origin of the first person. Islams, they believe that they originated from Allah. Allah created everything. If you look at the differences, here we have God and here we have Allah. So Christians believe that God created everything, whereas the Muslims or Islamic, they believe that Allah created everything. Also we have Hindus. Hindus also, they have their own belief in which they believe their first person came from. Hindus, they also have their own belief. The second theory that we're going to look at is the mythical theory. Mythical theory. The mythical theory. Now, mythical comes from the word myth. Mythical comes from the word myth. Learners, what is a myth? What is a myth? What is a myth? Use the number that you can see on the screen to SMS us. What is a myth? Before we talk about mythical theory, what is a myth? So we'll be looking at, we're not talking about mythical theory, we are referring to how different communities believe about the origin of their first person. Different communities, they have their own way in which they believe their first person came from. And we'll be looking at some of these communities. How do they believe their first person came from? How do they believe, where did the first person come from? And we're going to look at the Akamba. The mythical theory, the Akamba. We'll be looking at the Akamba. We'll be looking at the Maasai. We'll be looking at the Nandi. And we'll be looking at the Ababukusu. Ababukusu. So, in other words, we'll be looking at how do these communities believe about the origin of their first person. How did they believe? The Ababukusu, the Nandi, the Maasai, and the Akamba, and also the Agikuyu. The Agikuyu. How do they believe about the origin of man. So when we talk about these communities, these are all mythical, meaning a myth is something that is not true. It is believed to have happened but is not true. Now we start with Akamba. Akamba, these are also one of the Bantu communities found in Kenya. And Akamba, they believe that God created a man and a woman. They believe that God created a man and woman. Now your TY quiz is, what was the name of this man and what was the name of this woman among the Akamba? So the Akamba, they believe that God created a man and a woman, and then he dropped them on earth. And these two people settled on a hill called Nzau Hills. They settled on Nzau Hills. So Akamba believed that their first person, God created a man and a woman. And this man and a woman, God dropped them, and when he dropped them on the earth, they settled on a hill called Nzau Hills. Let us look at the Maasai. How do the Maasai believe about the origin of man? How do the Maasai believe about the origin of man? My TY quiz here is, who are the 9 daughters? TY quiz is, who are the 9 daughters? Who are the 9 daughters? Who are the 9 daughters that were given to the 2 human beings of the Agikuyu? And we have said Agikuyu, God blessed the 2 human beings he had created. They had names. Also, you see the number that you can see on the screen. Who are these 2 human beings that were created by God? And then God gave them 9 daughters. Who are they? So that is about the mythical theory. If you look at all this, I was only coming to a term, a myth. What is a myth? A myth is something that happened that is believed to be true, but it is not true. That is what a myth is. And we have looked at the Akambas, the Maasai, Nandi, Ababukusu, Agikuyu. We have so many myths in our communities, and all of us have come from different communities. So it is also good to know, where did your first parents came from? Where did they come from? And then the last theory that we are going to look at, which is going to be the topic of the strand of today, is called the evolution theory. The evolution theory. Evolution theory, it is a scientific theory. Evolution theory is a scientific theory that explains about the origin of man. And this scientific theory, it was studied by a person called Charles Darwin. This is evolution theory. The evolution theory. Evolution theory is a scientific study. It is a scientific study about the origin of man. And we have said that this scientific theory is called evolution, and it was developed by a scientist called Charles Darwin. The theory was established in 1859, and still, after he studied this theory, he recorded it in a book called Origin of Species. So Origin of Species, it is a book that records evolution theory, and it was developed by Charles Darwin in 1859. Remember, evolution theory, it is a theory that historians did through archaeological findings. As we are going to look at evolution theory, there are terms that are related to evolution, and we'll be looking at what are these common terms used in the study of evolution. Or in other words, when Charles Darwin was studying evolution theory, what were some of the terms that were used? The first one is fossils. So we'll be looking at what are fossils. We have excavation, we have archaeology, we have paleontology, we have archaeological sites, we have museums, we have hominid, we have homo, we have archaeologists, and lastly, we have pedicars. Those are the common terms used in the study of evolution, and we will be mentioning most of these words as we move on with the theory of evolution. So, what is a fossil? Use the number that you can see on the screen to tell us what is a fossil. What is a fossil? Remember, we have looked at, these are some of the terms we will be meeting as we move on with our lesson. So what are fossils? And number two, what are excavations? What is archaeology, paleontology, archaeological sites, museums, hominid, homo, and archaeologists and pedicars? What are they? Use the number that you can see on the screen to give us the definition of the words that you can see on the screen, because we will be mentioning them as we move. Now, let us look at fossils. Fossils are the remains of early man, the remains of plants, the remains of our ancestors, the remains of human beings. All those remains are called fossils. And as you can see from your screen, all those terms follow each other. They follow each other. For example, the word excavation, its definition is derived from fossils, because excavation is digging of fossils, and fossils are the remains of early man, and digging of the fossils is called excavation. And as we said, excavation is the digging. That study of digging of fossils is now what we call archaeology. Archaeology is archaeology, the study of fossils. And then when we come to archaeological sites these are areas where the remains of early man were discovered. Then when we come to the word homo, I'm just going through the common ones that we'll be looking at. The word homo means human-like creatures. Human-like creatures. The word homo means human-like creatures. Then pithekas means ape-like creatures. We have ape-like creatures and we have human-like creatures. Remember, we are talking about the evolution theory that was studied by Charles Darwin in a book called Origin of Species. Now, the theory of evolution, it states that human beings developed into or from different stages. Evolution, it means human beings developed from an ape-like creature to a more complex creature. And for that, we want to look at what are these stages of human development. Stages of human development according to evolution theory. What are these stages of human development according to evolution theory? Stages of human development. And as we have already said, that evolution states that human beings developed from an ape-like creature to a more complex creature. Now, which are these stages of human origin that we are talking about? What are these? We have several stages that we are going to write on the blackboard, and then we'll be mentioning characteristics of each stage, because it is important to know what is the difference between this stage and this stage. Also, it is good for you as a student, as a grade 8 learner, to know how did these stages developed from one stage to another. So the first stage was called Pithekas. We have them on the screen, Pithekas. Now we will be looking at the stages that you can see on the screen as we look at what are the characteristics of these stages. The first stage is called Pithekas, and this was the first and the earliest ancestor of both human beings. And this creature looked or it symbolized, or it was in the form of an ape-like creature. And this creature, Egyptopithecus, he had 4 limbs and he also had a tail. We will be looking at those, how do they appear as we move on from one stage to another. The second one is called Dryopithecus. He was the second creature after Egyptopithecus. Now, Dryopithecus was more developed. He had more developed brains compared to Egyptopithecus. And Dryopithecus also, he moved on 4 limbs. And his brain was more developed than that of the first creature. And also, Dryopithecus, he moved on 4 limbs and he had a pointed face. He had a pointed face. We will also be looking at the diagrams of these creatures as we move, so that they will be able to assist you on how to identify the first creature to the second creature. The third creature after Dryopithecus we had what we call Kenyapithecus. We had Kenyapithecus or Ramapithecus. And Kenyapithecus, he existed in many years ago, from 9 to 12 million years. Those were some of that was long time ago. And if you look at the characteristics of Kenyapithecus or Ramapithecus, we are saying that one, he had larger teeth and jawbone compared to Dryopithecus and Aegyopithecus. Also, he moved on 2 legs, just like Dryopithecus. Not Dryopithecus, but Aegyopithecus. So, if you look at the differences between these 3, you will find out as one moves from one stage to another, there are some complex features that the person, that these people developed. Kenyapithecus had a larger brain capacity than Dryopithecus. If you compare Dryopithecus and Aegyopithecus, you find out that Kenyapithecus had a large brain capacity. And also, Australopithecus now becomes the 4th creature. Australopithecus becomes the 4th creature. And Australopithecus, his other name was called Zinjanthropus. Zinjanthropus, which also means southern ape. Which also means southern ape. Your TY quiz is, why do we call Australopithecus southern ape? Use the number that you can see on the screen to give us your answer. Why do we call him a southern ape? Australopithecus, who is also known as Zinjanthropus, we say he is also known as a southern ape. Why do we call him a southern ape, or why is he referred to as a southern ape? Second thing about Kenyapithecus or Australopithecus or Zinjanthropus is that his brain was much developed than that of Kenyapithecus or Ramapithecus and Dryopithecus and Aegyopithecus. The brains of Australopithecus was more developed. So you see, as you move from one stage to another, the person is developing and developing. Australopithecus also walked upright. He had an upright posture. He walked in an upright posture and had larger brain capacity. He had large brain capacity, and his fossils were discovered in Ethiopia. We'll be looking at where their remains were discovered. After Australopithecus or Zinjanthropus, we have what we call Homo habilis. From the first, from when we began, we looked at the terms used in evolution, and we had this term called Homo, and now we are looking at Homo habilis. Students, what is the meaning of the word Homo? What is the meaning of the word Homo? You use the number that you can see on the screen to side chat us and give us your answer. What is the meaning of the word Homo? Now, Homo habilis, he is also known as handyman. Why is he called handyman? It is because he had a human-like longer arms. His arms seemed that of a human-like creature now. And also, his brain still developed more than Australopithecus. And also, our Homo habilis, they lived in families, meaning that after their brains was developed, then they were also able to know that now we need to live in families. Also, Homo habilis, his tools were called pebbles or old one. Pebbles. His tools. He used tools. Homo habilis, because we have said he was called a handy man or able man or a tool maker or man with the ability. That was about Homo habilis. Let us look at Homo erectus. Homo erectus was also one of the members or human creatures that he developed. And from the word erectus comes from a verb erect. Erect means to put upright. Therefore, Homo erectus was an upright man. he was an upright man. And why do we call him upright? We have already said because he had an upright posture and he made greater use of tools, because now this is a person who was able to use he was able to use the arms. He was able to develop his brains, as we have seen. And we have already said that one of the things you need to put as one of the characteristics is that as you move from one stage to another, the brain of each human creature develops. Also, Homo erectus was the first man to organize hunting expeditions, and also he was the first man to invent fire. That was about Homo erectus. And also, as you move, this Homo erectus, because he means upright man, and now his brain became bigger and bigger. The brain of Homo erectus became bigger and bigger. Then it tells us that he was almost able to do what the normal human beings are doing, because he was able to involve in activities such as hunting and farming. That was about Homo erectus. Then after Homo erectus, we go to Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens is also called intelligent man. Homo sapiens is also called intelligent man. Now, his brain still developed more than that of Homo erectus. And as we can see on the screen, that Homo erectus, he had what we call a capacity of brain of 1,000 to 1,800. That is almost like a normal human being. And also, back at the back of his skull, it was round with a square eye socket. And then this Homo sapien, as we have said, he now developed the brain of being like the normal human being that we are today. Because also like Homo erectus, Homo sapien was able to keep animals, he was able to practice fishing, and he was also able to grow crops. Now, learners on your screen, using the number that we have, what are some of the tools that were used by Homo sapien? What are some of the tools that were used by Homo sapien? The last stage of human development is called Homo sapiens sapiens. Homo sapiens sapiens. Homo sapiens sapiens was now the last stage of human evolution, and is the most advanced creature to appear on earth. Homo sapiens is now we, as we are today. We are Homo sapiens. Why? Because one, our brain has developed, we can predict the future, we have the ability to think in most and more complex way on earth. And also, Homo sapiens sapiens, he is now the normal human being, because normal human beings can, one, use technology, meaning that his brain has developed. We can use technology, we can make clothes from skin, we can use, we can predict the future, as we can see on the screen. Now, I want us to look at these stages on the diagram as we see how the posture was from Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo sapiens, and Homo sapiens sapiens. As you can see, Homo habilis, who is the first creature on our screen, Homo habilis, if you look at his posture compared to Homo erectus, you will see that one, he is slightly, the posture is slightly upright, not like the Homo sapiens sapien. And as you can see on the screen, still on Homo habilis, if you look at the face, compare the face of Homo habilis and Homo sapiens sapiens, you'll find that his face is very sharp, and also his body is hairy. Homo sapiens, Homo habilis, his body is hairy, and they lived in families, as we had said. The second one, as you can see, is Homo erectus. If you can see clearly on the screen, Homo erectus, from the one erect means upright, he is upright compared to Homo habilis. And Homo erectus, you look at his face, compared it with Homo habilis, you'll also still find out that Homo habilis, his face is also slightly sharper than that of Homo habilis. We go to the third one is Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens now is almost moving like the normal human being. You look at the posture. If you look at the posture, look at the face, look at the skull, and look at the head, you'll find out that Homo sapiens, even the face, even the mouth, it is almost resembling that of a normal human being. Lastly, we have what we call Homo sapiens sapiens. Homo sapiens sapiens now is the normal human being. The way now we walk is what you can see on the screen. That is how we walk, and that is now how we do what? How the modern man, the complex man is. That is how the complex man is. Now, your TY quiz for today on the evolution of man from what we have seen is, what is the correct order of the stages of human development? What is the correct order of stages of human development from the ape-like creature to the modern man, who is Homo sapiens sapiens? Use the number that you can see on the screen to give us your feedback, and we will be able to see. Now, next, as we have said that all these stages, their remains were found in Africa. And that's why we say Africa is regarded as a cradle of humankind, because all the remains of this animal, they were found in Africa. So we want to look at where were these remains discovered in Africa. Location of human remains discovered in Africa. Where were they found? We'll be looking at the location. The location of human remains. Location of human remains. Where were they found? Location of human remains. Where were they found? And remember, these human remains are what we call the fossils. Where were they found in Africa? So it is important for you, one, to know the place where they were found. Two, to locate these places on the map of Africa. Now, places where these remains were discovered are referred to as prehistoric sites. If you can remember terms that are used in the study of evolution of man, we talked about prehistoric sites. So, places where these remains were discovered are referred to as prehistoric sites. And we have said they were all discovered in Africa. And that is why Africa is regarded as a home of, as the cradle of mankind. Number two, we are saying that these remains, the oldest non-human remains in Africa, they were discovered in Ethiopia from around 2,000 years ago. Those were some years, very many years back. And we are saying these remains, it was the first place where they were discovered 200 years ago. And also, now, we want to look at where were these remains found, the location, and the year they were discovered. We'll be looking at the human remain from the screen, the human remain location, where were they discovered, and then the year, when were they discovered. It is very, very important for you as a student to note the origin and the areas where these fossils were discovered. We will start with the first one, Australopithecus. Australopithecus is the first one from the screen, as you can see. Australopithecus. Now, Australopithecus, as you see on the screen, he was discovered in Taung in Ethiopia. Taung is in Ethiopia, and it was discovered in the year 1924. Australopithecus. And we said the other name for Australopithecus is Zinjanthropus. So a teacher can still use Zinjanthropus or Australopithecus. Also, apart from Taung in Botswana, he was also were also discovered in Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania and Omo Valley in Ethiopia in 1974 and 1959. If we look at Homo habilis now, Homo habilis, the remains of Homo habilis were discovered at a place called Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania. That is in 1964. Also, the remains of Homo habilis were discovered at a place called Koobifora in 1969. Then still, these remains of early man were discovered in Kenya also at a place called Ologesaile near Lake Magadi. Homo erectus, the remains of Homo erectus were discovered at the shores of Lake Victoria, Lake Turkana, in Kenya in 1984. Then also Hadar in Ethiopia, Morocco, South Africa, Algeria, and Ariokotome in Kenya. Those are areas where Homo erectus, the remains of Homo erectus, were discovered. Lastly, the remains of Homo sapiens. The remains of Homo sapiens, they were discovered at a place called Elie Springs in Kenya near Lake Turkana. Also, the Homo sapiens, the remains of Homo sapiens were also discovered in Omo River in Ethiopia. And lastly, Ngaloba in Tanzania. So it is important as a candidate, as a student, as a grade 8 learner, to be able to know the origin or the areas where the stages of human development were discovered and the year in which they were discovered. As you can see, there are some areas that we don't have. For example, Homo erectus, we don't have the years, and also Homo erectus and Homo sapiens. So as you do your study, it is also good to use the digital devices that you have at home to search for the years in which those remains were discovered. As we still move on, remember the stages of human development, they occurred in periods, and these periods are known as the Stone Age period. Class, what is a Stone Age period? Stone Age period refers to period in which human beings made tools that are from stone. They made tools from stone. These stages are referred to as the Stone Age period. And there are 3 types of stages that we'll be looking at very fast. Stages of the Stone Age period. The Stone Age period. Stone Age period. So these are periods through which human beings made tools made from stones, and they are three. It is described as a period in history when tools were made from stones. This is they are called the Stone Age period. And then we have three stages that we'll be looking at, and out of these three stages we will be able to look at what or who belong to which stage according to the stages that we have already looked at. The first one is called the Early Stone Age period. Early Stone Age period. The second one is called Middle Stone Age. And the last one, we have the Late Stone Age. The Late Stone Age. So these are stages found in the Stone Age periods that we'll be looking at. Then from here we will now develop a format. We see where do Homo erectus belong to, where do Homo sapiens belong to, and all those stages. Now if we look at the first stage, the Early Stone Age period, this is a period where animals were hunted, small animals were hunted, and this stage it developed some million years ago, 2 million 2,000 years ago. Those were some years ago. And also during this stage, human beings made simple tools. During this stage, human beings made simple tools, and these two tools include: one, we have scrapers, we have blades, we have hammerstones, and lastly we have hand axes. Now why do we look at these tools? From these tools that we will be looking at from each stage, you will be able to understand which creature belongs to which stage according to how we will have analyzed. And also these creatures existed during period of Early Stone Age. The first creature in this stage, we have the Kenyapithecus, we have Australopithecus, we have Homo habilis, and the Homo erectus. So the first four stages belongs to the Early Stone Age period. Then the second one is called the Middle Stage. In this stage, still human beings made tools, and these tools are: one, they made small knives. We also have scrapers. And we have chisels. Now, your TY quiz: which human creature belongs to the Middle Stone Age period? Which human creature belongs to the Middle Stone Age period? Use the number that we have on the screen to give us your correct response. The third one is called the Late Stone Age period. Now the Late Stone Age period, it was between 20 years to 50 years to 5 years ago. That is not a long time ago compared to the Early Stone Age period. Then in this stage, we are saying man lived in caves and rock shelters. This is a stage where man lived in caves and rock shelters. And also they survived through economic activities, and these activities we have fishing. So from here now you are able to know who belongs to Late Stone Age period. We have fishing, and we also have what we call hunting, and also they grew crops, and they kept animals. Now why are you supposed to understand and know these economic activities? Because sometimes the facilitators will set an assessment, and then they will ask you to name some of the activities that were performed during the Late Stone Age period. So it is very, very important for you to know the stages of human development and also the economic activities. As we conclude, the late Stone Age period, human beings made better and advanced tools. They made very advanced tools from the economic activities that we have there. One, we have stone hammers, scrappers. We have large blades. We have grinding stones. And then we have large flakes. And lastly, we have a bone harpoon. So these are some of the advanced tools that were made during the late Stone Age period. Now, which creatures do you think belong to the late Stone Age period from the economic activities that we have and the tools, the advanced tools that we have? Use the number that we have on the screen to give us the correct response. What are some of the creatures that are found on the late Stone Age period according to the economic activities and the tools that we have on the screen? Our students, boys and girls, what is the summary for today's lesson? In today's lesson, we have been handling the second strand in grade 8, people and population. And under this stage, under this strand, we've been looking at the origin of human beings. We started by looking at the theories of human beings, the theories that explain about the origin of human beings. We looked at the 3 theories and described each theory. From there, we looked at evolution theory, where we have used a lot of time because that was our lesson for today. We have looked at the evolution theory. We defined what evolution is and looked at the origin of evolution. If a question comes to describe the evolution theory, it is a scientific theory that was studied by historians explaining about the origin of human beings. Under evolution theory, we also looked at the stages of human development from an ape-like creature to more complex creatures. We also looked at the characteristics of each stage of human development. After that, we looked at the areas where these the remains of the stages of evolution of man were discovered. We looked at each stage and where it was discovered and the year in which it was discovered. And we said these areas are called archaeological sites. I can give you an assignment. You use an atlas or a digital device to observe the map of Africa showing the major archaeological sites that we have in Africa, and also locate which human beings were found in each archaeological site. We also went on and looked at we looked at what we call the Stone Age period, the period through which human beings made tools from stones. We said that there are 3 stages of Stone Age period, and as you can see, they are still on the screen. We looked at the early Stone Age period, the middle Stone Age period, the early and the late Stone Age period. And lastly, still on the same, we looked at the tools made from each stage, and we looked at, after looking at the tools made, we said that in each stage there are economic activities that these creatures did. It is very, very important for you to know all that we have discussed in today's lesson. Now, As a student, I know and understand that you have learned something in today's lesson. Keep on following, especially when we have holidays. We have lessons running from Monday to Saturday. Use your holiday wisely. Make sure you follow KUTV on YouTube, Instagram, and also on Facebook. It will be of great help, especially for those who are candidates of this year. These lessons are going to help you very, very much. I have been your facilitator and your teacher, Teacher Duncan Guadima. Teacher Duncan is a teacher specialized in social studies, CRE, and also I teach learners in both in class and also online. And still we do what we call lesson notes. We give lesson notes to students. If you have a problem where you have an issue, you can always reach on us through the phone number that you can see on the screen. Make sure as you are at home during this holiday, you are able to study hard and study hard. Remember, as grade 8, this is a pioneer class. We will be sitting for our national assessment. So make sure you are able to follow keenly for the lessons that we will be having as we move on with your studies. I want to take this opportunity to thank you, our viewers who have been following us, the teachers. I know the teachers are following, our students are following, our learners all globally in our nation, they are following. So make sure you follow us everywhere and you will not regret. I want to wish you all the best and all the best as you go on and move on with your studies. I've been your facilitator, Teacher Duncan, social studies teacher.